the Executive Director of League of Democracy Advocates. And we're expecting to have Abib Kamar, Executive Director of Social Linkages for Youth Development and Child. Ibrahim, first off, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so before we start with you, let's set the context. Our colleague, one of our reporters, was at Kleintown on the day when it all started, when the container was discovered. So let's take that, then we'll come and start the discussion proper.
Thank you. We sit on our off the lane, and the camp for California, this particular artist so there. When we come for California, we see this container in the camp. And mind you, one thing we get tradition at this community. For any container when you go offload any side, you must get the youth man and the community what you follow up, like forget church, forget a living. So but when the youth man and camp, the one can church, we get I am an officer we say in a I don't call it lieutenant. In a private lieutenant, you come to get peaceful in the to we. It's a man who don't come inside. But I'm not going to come inside. We don't want to offload. We don't want to do for offload. So then set we and then get we because they get peaceful. But we don't get to now we go to the community center. Me and my friend on side. The corner today. We go to the community center. We could be there. We want to people want for work. They still up before we. Now so no come. They will bulldoze. When we come back, we come bulldoze. Like for go inside. Can you imagine like me? We all want to know because we come back. They say nobody there touch here. No people don't say a lie. This container was suspected. And indeed, I suspect when they can have different nationality. I see them go to passport and they told in their mandate. Different nationality, Ghanaian, Kenyan, Nigeria. It's not Sierra Leone, no. But we get to Sierra Leone when they get pistol from State House and come on. What's the kind of container like this one? Where is Puchka? The private bank gets about them put SLP 3 SLP 3. So if we had the interview on one know, as far as we know.
So what's not the present situation presently?
Well, the present situation in the man they say that they got a container that I don't call this chicken up so they can put the coffee bar. The gizzard, they full up inside this container. The man they say not trying to check the container. From this 2 o'clock, they say they can't go to Wellington, so not trying to check. Finally, what always alarm will call police. They don't see them container here. So that then get time. So the young man who asks one of foreign nationalities, what's what I can do for people in foreign container? I say them call them for councils. If anybody, I don't know if they're there, they can go on, whether if you're unconscious. They don't be safe for talk with school no more. We don't bell, bell for more we own. They don't agree for talk, sir. They say that talk to the council. But you've got to come on Ghana for council here. What they have, we don't get for talk. That's it. Well, I seen me for myself, look at the talk. I got it for you and say, Liverpool can say, they say, they don't give policeman or soldier man because you guys said that it's also soldier man and policeman.
Within our Kleintown right now, we civil society, journalists, because we get information about something where they go on at Kleintown, then we come. We want to get access, but they forgive that we write to information. And no information has been given to us, but we just wanted to give you information of what's happened. We don't see one man don't go, so like that for now. That's the situation we did at this particular place. Also, we have a group of journalists as well as civil society at this particular place. Always to once they play with role, they need to talk to me. We are all Sierra Leoneans. If we get information, we come, there's a responsibility for talk to make we know what's happening. We don't count the time for get in touch with the police and security officers there at the Kleintown side, but they don't able to tell me anything. But so far so good, something is happening. They don't give wrong information. But we look forward to them and they will tell me because we are all Sierra Leoneans and if something happens, we concerned. So in that respect, we get a Kleintown, we try to talk to them. Yeah? We get Kleintown at the moment. We get an intelligence, and we don't kind of Kleintown for can find out which they really go on. We see arrest. suspected and examined them.
Okay, welcome back. That was just to set the context of what we'll be discussing. And we must state that we tried having the police on this conversation, but they said they've issued a press statement. We should just go with that they will be opening the suspicious container today at 10 a.m. So we should just go with that. We also tried to have the Ministry of Internal Affairs, but we couldn't. So this is a public interest issue, so we'll definitely discuss it. Ibrahim, sorry, I'll start with you. You've been following this suspicious container. So far, what's your investigation showing?
Yeah, thank you so much. Firstly, I want to establish that the suspicious container is a concern to us. That is why we went to the quay. We were there till 4 a.m. in the morning to make sure we see that the container is protected and being opened in front of the public. So the suspicion that drugs and money is there has been sorted out according to our own investigations and what we opted to have done at the material time. Yesterday, we also went to Kintom, where the container is, and could you imagine, civil society journalists were restricted. But we saw some supporters of the SLPP who were naming themselves the Pauper guys. They were there. They were allowed access to be within the perimeter of the container. So
that is at the Kintom police officers?
Yes, there's a boy called Rati. His name is Rati, and he's a popular Pauper guy. That is, he used to call himself the Pauper soldier, you know. And we are threatened by the same Rati, you know. And one of my guys was also being threatened, and in fact, he ran away. Yesterday, this was a do-or-die game. Lambrana, this was a do-or-die game yesterday when we were there. You can see I was there with Salti, I was there with Editor Temple, I was there with so many couple of other journalists, and Marcos Bangua. We're all there to monitor. And in fact, till this morning, I'm just trying to establish for you to understand exactly the circumstances we are finding ourselves. We've got threat messages.
From where?
From unknown numbers, calls from different people. You know, our lives are in danger now as we are speaking. When we had the information about this container, we dispatched team. They went there. I went there at around 3 in the morning. My guys were there 10 till 3 in the morning. Whilst I went there, I met them. You know, we tried to dialogue with the authorities for them to understand the purpose why we are there. They started calling different people. Authorities were calling us that if you guys are going to be arrested, if you go there, you guys should not go close to the containers. What is this all for? Now, what we have discovered within the course of our investigation is one thing that is very, very, very serious and as of concern is the SLP 333, this registration vehicle. This registration number is affixed to the ADC's vehicle, yes, which is the police ADC to the president, whose name is AIG Koma, Sylvester Koma. Now, why SLP 333 is being affixed to the truck carrying the container?
So that was the number that was shown on screen?
Exactly.
No, that was 304,
SLP
304 on screen.
I think so.
Yeah.
There was SLP 33. You can check the registration number of the ADC.
No, you might be correct. We're just making a reference to the one we saw.
I can understand. So this is a very good concern. Secondly, We are not saying police or the military people should not escort the container, okay? But the manner, the style and pattern upon which the container was escorted is a strange thing to us.
Do you know the owner of this container, or what the suspicion? How did you come to know about this container?
Okay, this is another concern. Why are the authorities at the material time failed to tell us the owner of the container? I mean, to say this container belongs to Lambranaba, it's a simple thing. You don't need to keep the ownership of the container. No, tell us. They refused not to tell us, and that is a concern. Tell us that this container belongs to a businessman, but we are going to investigate. When once the container is being opened, you people will see all of that. Okay, we don't want to see now the content of the container at the material time, because it was virtually impossible for us to see. But just tell us who is the owner of the container. Let us just know. They did not tell us. They were saying, other guys around, we are saying he's a big businessman, politicians, they were just calling. But we wanted to know the owner of the container.
What's your suspicion, according to your own source, of what is in that container?
Now, it will be of virtually unprofessional for me to tell you the exact content of it. But what I'm telling you, we suspected unlawful items in that container, debarred by laws in Sierra Leone. So we wanted at the material time to know. In fact, yesterday when we went there, they could not allow us, they could not give us the success the access to see exactly what is being transpired at the key when we are there. They told us, you guys are not qualified to be here, but other people, just ordinary people, were allowed access to go around the perimeter of the container. And there and then, they said they are going to open the containers, but we should not witness. My God. You are not allowing civil societies, journalists to witness the opening of a container that is being alleged. They said, we will not be there. Okay. We got intelligence that last night, they were planning to bring this, our local pampa. And if you see the location where the container is being placed, it's not too far from the sea. So we got the intelligence. We woke up 1 in the morning. We'll be there till 3 in the morning. The security presence there, they could not even allow us again. It's like we are like 500 meters away from the container. Mm. So what we did, I advised my guys that now, let us come to Government WAF. We can have a view there to see what is actually happening. My brother, even, I think they got intelligence that we are on our way going to Government WAF. Even when we made the attempt to go to Government WAF, when we went there, the security presence we made there, they could not allow us to, just Government WAF, ordinary Government WAF. They could not allow us. Because they knew yesterday we were going to stand there to see exactly what is going on. And we got intelligence that they are preparing this pamper to actually take the content of the container and refill the container with another content.
In all of this, who have you been engaging, say, from the security sector? As a civil society organization, one could imagine perhaps you'll have the leadership of the police to engage and dialogue on this issue. Have you been engaging the leadership?
Yes, we tried communicating with the police authorities. They actually ignored our communications. Even when we requested for responses from them, they could not. We also tried to engage the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Okay? They could not respond to us. I also texted the ADC, Sylvester Kouma, that I want to have his own parts of it. Yesterday, at 9 in the morning, when I texted him, he was willing to give his own part of this issue. Not until this morning. His replied to my text message is he took my article that I wrote and he sent it to me. All the other authorities who were willing to speak with us. As of this morning, they said they have nothing to say to us. Why? We don't know. Maybe something might have done last night as we are actually suspecting. So now they are not willing to talk to us. But as of yesterday, they were willing to speak with us. As of this morning, it is an absolutely no. Now they are unreachable.
Sorry, this brings in my question. With all the controversies surrounding this suspicious container, allegation of bringing in arms and ammunition, bringing in drugs, you know, when we're easing towards the election in 2023, should we be worried?
Yes, we should be worried. In fact, even our suspicion about the container is not only limited to the alleged drugs, money. It goes beyond to even suspecting maybe these military things or whatever. These are just our suspicion anyway. So what we are saying, it goes to the security of the state. It goes to the credibility and affordability of our currency. And it goes to the mental aspects of our nation and even the very credibility of Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Assuming where the container is actually being prepared. The container was prepared in Brazil. We will tell you all, the container came to Morocco, but this container, it was not only Brazil. This container left at the material time. The initial and the first contact of this container when we investigated, it came from Mexico. And we all know Mexico is a dangerous country. We have our own investigations we are doing. Secondly, transited to Brazil, and Brazil is being named as another dangerous country when it comes to drugs dealing. And Morocco quite recently, if you investigate also, they caught multiple containers of drugs, both Morocco and Egypt. So these are all our concerns, that because this container went through countries that are actually being described as drugs exposed and prohibited countries, then therefore we are worried. Mm-hmm. Secondly, we are approaching elections. You know what these drugs can do to our youths and even higher authorities, we all know. Secondly, you know when it comes to elections, you must be concerned about all and everything that is actually coming into the country. So if there are suspicions, what we expected the authorities to have done at the material time was to have brought heavy security presence with the journalists, with the civil societies. These things are spontaneous. These are things that you don't just, let's wait for 2 days or 3 days. Because within that period, something could have been done, which you and I will not be able to aware. So we have the authorities, and Sierra Leone is a sovereign state. You can even give an order for the police to be there, the owner of the container to be there, instantly with civil societies and journalists. You open and we see.
Sorry, with all these big names being mentioned, should Sierra Leoneans actually trust the security personnel to carry on with this investigation?
Well, to some extent, you will trust the security in the nation. To some extent, you will be worried about the securities in this nation. I know my reason why I'm telling you this. Assuming our investigations are actually connected to several authorities, the 2 ADCs to the president, and the station manager at the crime officer at Kisi, other politicians. Okay, so we are worried. Okay. And as recently as we are speaking, I'm telling you, our investigation has also been connected to the very security institution the head of the disaster management in Sierra Leone, I'm telling you, and the Minister of Mines. These are what we are actually investigating. These are some of the names that are actually coming in. And we are going to do some things that people will see with evidence.
Okay, we're looking forward to that because those are very serious allegations mentioning certain individuals. Hopefully, you have evidence to those allegations. And like I mentioned earlier, we invited the police to be part of this discussion as well as the Ministry of Internal Affairs, but unfortunately, we couldn't have them. So hopefully, we'll have someone from government to react to some of these allegations. Let's bring Habib into the discussion. Habib, you work with young people around drug abuse and how it's affecting young people in this country. You know, this whole container issue, according to the police, there are contrabands, there are allegedly arms and ammunition. But I want us to look at the issue of drugs in Sierra Leone, coming into Sierra Leone. Marina was asking Ibrahim Sori about being concerned about the present situation in the country leading to elections. Should we be worried?
Yeah, the present state of drugs in this country, we need to worry. Yeah, the day before yesterday, I have to call David that there is a case. We have a serious case of overdose of drugs in the country, and the 2 overdose cases within the day before yesterday morning, they passed away, and there was a standoff between police from the Lumley and the youth of Levuma Beach. There is the present drugs that in the market, which is kush, which is now being manufactured in this country, is now making guys to go overdose and even contribute to death. Now, as my colleague was saying, election is coming. The youth are volatile, and there is a lot of increase of drugs in the country. And if there is an increase of drugs in the country, the younger guys, you saw 2 years ago, in 2019, I was the first person to raise alarm on Pampas. And now we have this generation or this type of youth now. Kush is no longer coming, my brother. Kush is now being manufactured in the country. And based on our intelligence, we have some substance or chemicals that are coming in country.
To produce it here.
To produce it here. And the present kush that is in the market is a public health concern for us that are working with individuals, more especially the younger people that are on drugs.
Yeah, are we doing enough, I want to ask? Very recently, there was this report that some drugs transported to Guinea-Bissau, coming from Sierra Leone to Guinea-Bissau and up to Ghana. And on that, we only had ONSCR saying they're investigating. There's not been any statement, official statement from government on that issue. Are the authorities doing enough to address this situation?
And I want to be very truthful to the Sierra Leonean generation or to the Sierra Leonean citizens. The entity that is responsible to regulate drug issues is ILE budgeted, which is the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. I follow their budgets, and which they prepare and present it to government, about 5 billion leones, but it was not even meant. 20% of that budget that was given to government was not adhered to. And that NDLA is just sitting at Walpole Street. They do not have branches around. It is about 2 or 3 months that they have now, they are in the Water Key and they are in the part of other stations. But my brother, if we want to change the narrative and we want to attain the UHC, which is the Universal Health Coverage, and the STG, which if government wants to meet those things, we have to put more emphasis on drugs issues, not to make lip services on drugs. For the alleged matter that is presently being investigated about the container, I was not in Freetown, I was in Makeni. I have my networks. People called me that this is what we have heard from Waterkey. I have to send my network to the place, but there is no access to the place. But we were told yesterday, 10 o'clock today, they will be opening it. And we are still craving an indulgence of the security authorities that we should have presence to be there to see what is coming up. But Lamorana, drug issue is now a public health challenge in this country. For me, it's a pandemic. Because the users are the ones that we are protecting. The supply route is where we have to lay emphasis. Whenever there is raid and whenever there is arrest, is the users that are being arrested. So since 2016, I have been advocating for even to review our drug law. The drug law came into being in 2008 when the cocaine plane landed from Venezuela to this country. The then parliament in 2008 rushed under the certificate of emergency to give us an act, and that act, we see it as discriminatory to the users. Because there were some chapters in that articles that we are supposed to adhere to. That they were supposed to form a panel of committee that was responsible, those that have been arrested, that has drug cases that are in hands of the security apparatus to make referrals to healthcare facilities, was not done up till now. To cut matters short, drug-related activities in this country, more emphasis is not being put on it. I don't know, but election is coming. And we are seeing the volatile and unemployment of younger people. If we have a lot of substance in this country, it will create a chaos. And again, you said something about the drug that was transited from Sierra Leone, Guinea, Ghana to Burkina Faso. I follow that investigation through our networks within the West Africa. I'm part of a network that we call West Africa Drug Policy Network, which we are trying to create for our countries in the West Africa, is to have a policy that is human, that has a human face. The supply routes in West Africa through the Kofi Annan Institution and the West Africa Drug Commission, which was created by the late Kofi Annan, to see that West Africa is a hub, it's a transit point, and Sierra Leone at the time was used as a transit point. And still Sierra Leone is being used.
And this situation, that is what I wanted to ask you about. You know, the supply routes and those who are involved in it. Like you mentioned, it's scary, the way it is presently with young people in the country. You work with the police as well, I assume.
Yes.
Do you think they're doing enough to target the whole issue from where the supply is coming from, those who are in the trade in it? I will assume there are a lot of people who are involved in this and making money out of the lives of young people who are destroying themselves.
The BC link we have there, my brother Lamlana, between the law enforcement and the NDLA. The NDLA really needs to be capacitated to be, because these are giving the power from parliament that they regulate drugs. We have TOCU, which is the trans-organized crime unit of the police that deal with substance, contrabands, and any criminal issues, even with what they call human trafficking. They need to be working together when it comes to arrests. Government needs to empower the entity that was created to play that role. For us, there is a missing link towards that. The security, the police, you have a unit which I just called TOCU. TOCU came on after TOCU was sponsored by the United States. And even the United States, now they have realized they have spent a lot of money in terms of attacking the drug industry. The drug industry we are talking about, it has money than even our states in West Africa. After rice, oil, drug is the third largest commodity or business in the world. And this cartel has been operating in this sub-region. And if the research that was done by the West Africa Drug Commission said they are now using submarines to transit drugs into West Africa. And West Africa, our Navy forces do not even have boats that can parade our high seas. Now talking about using submarines to come with these drugs. Majority of these drugs that are coming to these countries are not going again. 50% is now living in these countries, and we are using these drugs in this country. Seeing the volatile of our young people, see the magnitude of the appetite the young people have for every substance now. And again, authorities, more especially the police, December, a lot of substance we are arrested at the key, more especially with tramadol. And the content of that tramadol, through test from the pharmacy, the dose was so high for this nation. But since after it was tested and after the investigation, we did not have anything from the law enforcement. So, we as civil society organization, we are worried, more especially for the safety of the country, the security of the country, the health needs of the country, and even the social justice of young people that are taking these drugs. Okay. More especially, we are seeing an increase now in terms of the HIV, the hyperthyroidism. These are more contributing factors of drugs these young people are using, Lamrana. But for us, drug issue is alarming. And for us, we will not sit by and see the way our communities are living with drugs.
Okay. Finally, I want to ask, what will you recommend, to the authorities in situations like this, where there is suspicion about drugs or drugs being brought into the country suspiciously? What do you think the police can do in working with civil society organizations that have this tip-off? Like you said, they had the tip-off, they tried to bring it to the public, but they were they were denied access to it. How do you think you can collaborate with the authorities?
My advice to the authority, we are living in an accountability country, and we are living in a democratic state. We are citizens says we are suspicious of this, and if it is a national cry, and those alleged substances people are alleging that it is that in that container, the police is supposed to open that container in the eye scenes of the civil society organizations, the Fourth Estate, and like-minded Sierra Leoneans that are concerns for us to know. That would be the only thing that can shelve these allegations. If it is contraband substance, or even people are alleging that we have money, our new currency is in that money, and it's in that container. But through our own organizations findings, the container was from Brazil to Morocco. Morocco is transshipment to Morocco. From Morocco, it came through to Freetown. Okay. Now this container is here. Now this container is in the hands of the police. The police should make access to other Sierra Leonean individuals that have raised concerns that this is what is in this container. As we saw the clip from those that find their livelihood from the key, that really triggers my attention. The guy said, any containers that comes, for us that are not part of Water Key, whenever you see containers, you see young people standing behind of the trailers, 10, 15, to go and offload those containers. But they said from there should have been an experience. Anything you have been debarred from, if this is your livelihood, and if you come this morning, you do not have access into this place, you know something has wrong. So with that, they raise that bar. They say, oh, something suspicious is coming.
Sorry, let me ask you this question. There seems to be a lot of interest around this particular container. I mean, is this the time we expect to see or hear from the highest office in the land, which happens to be the presidency, more so wherein the ADC was mentioned?
Yeah, this is an allegation that is very, the presidency, because since the first, I was in up country, the first WhatsApp I saw that people from the presidency, and State House is, the State House hosts the HE, and those that works with the HE. If allegation is coming like this, the presidency needs to come out with a statement, and even the ONS needs to come in, because the ONS is hosting all the security apparatus, and it is being hosted, or it is under the office of the president. Okay. It is a concern to this nation. The ONS needs to step in, and the State House needs to step in to come out with a press statement that can make people satisfied, or a press statement that can allow the public, more the Fourth Estate and the civil society organizations to be at present, as promised by the police. 10 o'clock today, they will be opening the container. Yes.
My final question for you will be, do you trust the states now to investigate this issue fairly and come out at the end of the day with a credible report?
There is the trust. The trust will only be if we are in presence. Like my brother was saying, if we are present and that container is being opened in front of everybody, even the Fourth Estates, that could be fine.
Okay.
The trust is there. They are our police, and we still need to trust them until otherwise.
Okay. It's 9 a.m. Let's take the summary. When we come back, we'll hear from Ibrahim Sori finally on this issue. Let's join David Remy Wilson again for the news summary. We'll be back soon.
But in our top stories this morning, Kolek community within the Western Freetown has been projected to suffer for disease in the next 2 years. This, according to the community headman, Paul Mamikoma, is because of the Freetown City Council Kintom fiscal mode treatment plant managed by Gold Sierra Leone in their community.
But to this day, California assistant will be there, the way and the that they descend to the community, to our community. So this is in the canal, where they expect city and where they say they get for can you find drainage, where the wasting of the go, then where to go. And if this one the next 2 years, Collection will be a sickly land and sick not be there. And then the diligent sick will the people then. So mommy then get them sick up to have done the worst. You know guarantee for them to cover the country where those you don't do. The old them the send the leg the post not clean for them. Now the also the bit where they come up in the big sick and the system.
Then they tell you say this water enough for be this for be clean. So but at where they start the water can they now that. So the concern all now it be to them building that all they get the scent. Well them they tell you say the scent will if enough for be get scent if for clean our water say if one move to say but that not to
because when they trade the water, so toilets like the candle, they are more real because when water came, when they come back, then instead they come, the water the flow.
Another story, vision defect is one of the challenges teachers in Bo City are faced with. The problem are to reduce their proficiency and effectiveness, which also had negative impact on the teaching and learning abilities of pupils. In order to correct their visions and make them more prolific, High Q Optical in Bo City has conducted a free medical examinations and distributed specific glasses to more than 100 teachers as a boost to the free quality education.
Like Bo School, we examined 39 teachers, 34 they need 35 rather they need some form of vision correction, reading glasses, bifocals, and distant glasses, and some even need locks. Both schools and CKC we examine 40 teachers, 35 also they need treatment, and 5 no more they be perfectly okay. But the 35 they need reading glasses as well, bifocal and 2-in-1 glasses, and then we need medication as well. What you don't notice between the school level big glasses and examine give them glasses so far is that most of the teachers then over 80% need some form of vision correction. Then secondly, over 70 to 75% of them they get the eye exam for the very first time.
Friends, watch eyes. But now that these people are here and they have used us, tested us, and given all these ones to us, it's a welcoming idea for them.
They're asking other
NGO or organization to come up so that at least they can go throughout the schools. Like this now for us, we are fortunate that we are choosing CKC. Most of the teachers will be now comfortable.
And finally, as part of their corporate social responsibility, the Sierra Leone Brewery Limited has officially handed over 160,000 euros to boost Calbar Town and Wellington community for the implementation of a water project and water supply system project for the community, which has been sponsored by Enikin Africa Foundation.
At SLBL, we say we believe in a better world. Yeah? A better world where everyone can be enjoying peaceful life, where everyone can be healthy, have good health. And we know that a better world without clean water cannot exist.
It is our mandate to be socially responsible to the people with which we operate. So, in order to meet this mandate, we decided to give back to our communities. These two communities are our neighbors, and they came to us a couple of years back that they're in dire need of water and sanitation facilities.
At least after having pleaded or requested the SLBL, well, the HAF through SLBL for such a laudable project, it has already been approved and then launched. Considering the magnitude of benefit that will be derived from this project, considering the number of people that will be benefiting from this project, and I feel gratified.
All right, that's all we have in our top stories this morning. Back to Marina and Amadou in our main studios.
Thank you very much, David Remy Wilson, for the news summary. As we round up Ibrahim Sori, the police says the container will be open today. What next? Will you be supervising that process this morning?
Yeah, firstly, we want to see what is in the content of the container, as the police has likely and rightly mentioned. And then we'll bring our own if whether we have contrary pictorial evidence or contrary documents that can actually contradict what we are going to see today. That is why we are patiently awaiting, even though our lives are in danger now. We have received so many threat messages, and we will be arrested, we will be detained, you know, we will be wiped off. All of these texts and calls we have got. But we're still determined, because we are doing our job, and we want to see what is in the container, and we are urging Office of the Presidency to actually put up